Before I get into this, let me just say that I never imagined that attending church would almost land me in jail. Yeah, you heard that right, church. But this story isn't just about a misunderstanding, and it's not some silly argument between neighbors. No, this goes deeper than that, way deeper. And it all started when a new neighbor moved in across the street from me in a quiet little neighborhood called Briarwood. I'd been levying here for about 5 years. It wasn't much, just a modest two-bedroom house, but it was mine. I'd worked hard to get it, cleaned myself up, and finally got my life together. The neighbors? They kept to themselves, which, honestly, I liked. But when that moving truck rolled up one summer morning, everything changed. I was out front, doing what I do best, watering my garden. Yeah, I'm one of those people who has a thing for flowers, and my petunias. They were looking beautiful that day. Then, she stepped out of that pristine white Lexus SUV. Carrie Winthrop. Didn't know her name then, but I'd figure it out soon enough. The kind of woman who practically oozes entitlement. Blonde hair pulled back tight, floral dress that probably cost more than my car, and the kind of posture that screamed, "I'm here to change your life, whether you like it or not." She didn't even bother with a wave. She just looked me up and down like I was a problem. I waved anyway, trying to be neighborly. Her response? She looked away and walked straight inside like I didn't exist. Now, let me be clear, this wasn't some casual encounter. I wasn't some random guy on her radar. I had a past. 10 years ago, I wouldn't want me levying across the street either. I was into some bad stuff, nothing violent. But let's just say the law and I didn't exactly get along. Drugs, theft, you name it. I hit rock bottom, woke up in a hospital bed with a pastor beside me instead of family or friends. That pastor, Coleman, from New Hope Baptist, he didn't judge me. He didn't preach hellfire. He just sat with me, offered a sandwich, and asked if I needed to talk. That's when I decided to turn my life around. He didn't give me a lecture. He showed me a way out. The church became my anchor. I started going every Sunday, even when I was too sick to stand. It wasn't just about religion. It was about community, about redemption. Pastor Coleman guided me through every step of my recovery. And after a few years, I wasn't just a guy who showed up in the back pew. I was a mentor, helping with food drives, youth programs, and even on the church council. My life had completely turned around, and New Hope Baptist was where it happened. So back to Carrie. A few Sundays into her being at the church, I noticed her car in the parking lot. At first, I thought, okay, maybe she's trying to find something she's been missing. After all, New Hope had always welcomed anyone who was looking for a sense of community, no matter where they came from. So, I figured maybe Carrie just needed time. But when I saw her in church, sitting in the third row, hands stiff, eyes darting around, I got this feeling like she wasn't there to worship, she was there to watch. She wasn't a casual observer. She was studying me like I was a specimen under a microscope. I could feel her gaze cutting through me as Pastor Coleman preached about love and acceptance, and I realized she wasn't just uncomfortable. She was afraid. But not just afraid of Mesh, was afraid of everything I represented. After church that day, I decided to be the bigger person. I walked up to her, smiled, and extended my hand. I said, "Hi there. I'm Jerome, your neighbor across the street. Welcome to New Hope." Her response was instant and cold. She pulled back, as if I'd just offered her a snake instead of a handshake. "I'm just sighting," she muttered, clutching her purse like it was a lifeline. I smiled anyway, tried to lighten the mood. "If you decide to stick around, you'll find we're a pretty warm community. And Mrs. Henderson makes the best fried chicken this side of heaven." She cut me off mid-sentence, barely acknowledging me before speed walking away, levying me standing there with my hand outstretched, feeling like an idiot. But then, Mrs. Patterson, an older woman in the church, came up to me. She had seen it all, and she gave me this knowing look. "Some folks carry their fear around like a security blanket," she said, patting my arm. "Give her time, baby. Sometimes hearts take longer to catch up with heads." I tried to take Mrs. Patterson's advice, But the weeks went by, and Carrie's behavior only escalated. Every Sunday, she'd arrive exactly 10 minutes before service started, march to her chosen pew, sit right in my line of sight, and spend the entire service alternating between taking notes and shooting suspicious glances at me. I won't lie, it started to get under my skin. But the breaking point came when I overheard her talking to Margaret Foster, a newer member. Carrie was talking about me, accusing me of being dangerous, implying that I shouldn't even be in the neighborhood. Margaret, to her credit, tried to defend me, but Carrie was relentless, insisting that people like me didn't just end up in nice neighborhoods like Briarwood. People like him don't just end up here, she said. There's always a reason. I didn't know what to do. I didn't want to escalate things, but when Carrie started taking her paranoid obsession to the next level, it was hard not to. It all culminated on a Sunday when Pastor Coleman delivered a sermon about redemption. I was sitting there, feeling good about my life, when I could feel her eyes boring into me, burning like hot coals. The whole time, I kept thinking, what does she see when she looks at me? What does she think I am? The next moment, it went from uncomfortable to insane. In the middle of fellowship time after church, Carrie stood up, stormed toward me, and accused me of being a criminal. She wasn't quiet about it, either. I know what you are, she hissed. You're just a criminal hiding behind that church facade. The whole room went silent. Pastor Coleman looked shocked. I could feel everyone's eyes on me, but I wasn't going to let her get away with it. I stood up slowly, my heart pounding, but my voice steady. I think there's been some kind of misunderstanding, I said, trying to remain calm. But Carrie wasn't having it. I know your past, she shouted. I've done my research. People like you don't change. You're dangerous. Before I could respond, she turned to the crowd and said, this church is harboring criminals. The tension was thick, and I could feel my hands shaking. But Mrs. Patterson, always the voice of reason, stood up next. Excuse me, sweetheart, but the only criminal I see here is you, she said, her tone calm but razor-sharp. You've assaulted our pastor, and you've been running around accusing people who've never done a thing wrong. Carrie's eyes widened in disbelief. What do you mean, assaulted? She asked, almost laughing in her denial. Sweetheart, you shoved him, Mrs. Patterson replied, cutting through the absurdity of Carrie's denial. And now you've got the nerve to accuse us of criminal behavior, or? Before she could respond, Deacon Williams stood up, his phone in hand. I've got the whole thing on video, sweetheart. You've been caught. Carrie's face went pale. She stammered, but nothing she said made sense. Officer Martinez was called, and the situation escalated. As the officer questioned Carrie, she just dug herself deeper, accusing the entire congregation of a criminal operation, all because of my past. But that's when things started to fall apart for her. Officer Martinez, clearly losing patience, looked at her like she was out of her mind. You need to stop talking, he told her. You've made false accusations, and you assaulted a man of God in his own church. But instead of backing down, Carrie only escalated. I'm filing charges, she yelled. I want you to arrest them. They're all in on it. It was ridiculous. But when the police arrived, they arrested Carrie. She was booked for assault, disturbing the peace, and making false reports. I never thought I'd see the day when someone like her would face consequences for her actions. But that's exactly what happened. And the irony wasn't lost on me. Carrie had tried to expose me as a criminal, and in the end, she exposed herself. As time went on, more people started to see her for who she really was. Her divorce, her isolation, everything she'd worked to destroy had turned against her. Meanwhile, I became a symbol of what redemption truly looked like. People who once feared me now reached out to me, and even the mayor's office saw the transformation I'd gone through. But I couldn't help but wonder, would Carrie ever really understand what she'd done? Would she ever see the damage she'd caused, not just to me, but to the entire community? Or would she just continue hiding behind her prejudices, pretending she had no part in it? All I know is this: sometimes justice tastes sweeter than revenge. So what do you think? Should people like Carrie ever get the chance to change, or are they too far gone? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Let's get the conversation started.